The first thing I noticed was the single red rose waiting on the table. It was cliché, but my heart still fluttered. 20 years. 2 decades since I, Sarah Evans, in a cloud of white tulle and naive hope, had promised my forever to Mark in a sun-drenched garden. Now here we were at Il Nido, the same tiny family-owned Italian restaurant where we'd shared our first real date. A plate of shared linguine and dreams that felt as vast as the ocean. I'd worn the emerald green dress, the one he'd always said brought out the flecks of gold in my hazel eyes. I'd had my hair styled, the gray strands meticulously blended away. I was trying to recapture something, a spark that had been flickering for a while, drowned out by the comfortable, deafening silence of a marriage that had become more of a cohabitation agreement. He was late, only by 10 minutes, but it felt symbolic. When he finally arrived, he looked handsome, his salt and pepper hair still thick, his suit crisp. But his smile was tight, not reaching his eyes. "Sorry, traffic was a nightmare," he'd muttered, kissing my cheek with a dryness that felt more like duty than affection. I chalked it up to stress. Work had been intense, he'd said. The kids, Jessica and Noah, now teenagers, were a whirlwind of hormones and activities. We were ships passing in the night, and I thought this dinner, this sacred anniversary, was our lighthouse. We made stilted conversation. He praised my dress. I asked about his day. We ordered the same meal we always did, bruschetta, followed by 2 orders of osso buco. The wine, a rich Barolo, arrived. He drank his first glass quickly, his eyes darting around the room, never truly settling on me. I felt a prickle of anxiety, a cold knot forming in my stomach. This wasn't the Renaissance I'd imagined. This felt like a wake. Then, as the server cleared our main course plates, he reached not for the small, gift-wrapped box I'd seen in his jacket pocket earlier, but for his briefcase, which he'd placed beside his chair. My foolish heart leapt again. A surprise trip? The jewelry I'd hinted at? He pulled out a standard, legal-sized manila envelope. It was thick, uncompromising. My name was typed on the front. Sarah Evans. Not Sarah. Not my love. Just my name. "What's this?" I asked, my voice a nervous chirp. "Just read it," he said, his voice flat, devoid of all emotion. My fingers, suddenly clumsy and cold, fumbled with the metal clasp. I pulled out a sheaf of papers. The words at the top were in a bold, black font that seemed to scream from the page. Petition for dissolution of marriage. The world did not slow down. It stopped. The clinking of cutlery, the soft strains of an Andrea Bocelli song, the low hum of other conversations, it all vanished, replaced by a high-pitched ringing in my ears. I looked from the papers to his face, my eyes begging, searching for a punchline, for an explanation that this was some horrific, tasteless joke. His expression was granite. "It's over, Sarah," he said, his voice chillingly calm. "It's been over for a long time." What are you talking about?" I stammered, the papers trembling in my hands. "Mark, it's our anniversary." "I know what day it is," he replied, and in that moment I saw it. Not sadness, not regret, but a flicker of impatience. He had chosen this. He had meticulously selected this day, this place, to deliver the killing blow. It was calculated. It was cruel. It was designed to be a scar I would carry forever, so I would never for a single second forget the moment my life was publicly executed. The server, a young woman with a kind face, chose that moment to approach. "Can I get you two any dessert? Our tiramisu is." Her voice trailed off as she took in my face, pale and frozen, and the legal documents on the tablecloth. She retreated quickly. I stared at my half-empty wine glass, at the single red rose, now looking like a prop in a terrible play. The osso buco I'd eaten felt like a lead weight in my stomach. I was going to be sick. "Who is she?" I whispered, the question leaving my lips before I could stop it. It was the only thing that made sense. He had the decency to look slightly uncomfortable. "It doesn't matter." "It matters to me." My voice cracked, drawing a few glances from nearby tables. The humiliation was a physical burn, spreading from my chest to my cheeks. "Her name is Chloe," he said, as if conceding a minor point. "She's from work. We're in love, Sarah. It just happened. Just happened. 20 years of shared history, of birthing children, of burying parents, of building a life, reduced to it just happened. Like stubbing a toe. Like spilling milk. I don't remember leaving the restaurant. I have a vague memory of standing on the sidewalk, the cool night air a shock to my system, while he paid the bill. He drove me home in a silence so profound it was a living entity in the car. He didn't come inside. He dropped me at the curb, a stranger delivering a package. "I'll be by this weekend to get some of my things," he said, and then he was gone. A week to the day after the restaurant, the fog began to lift, burned away by a slow, simmering anger. This wasn't just a broken heart. This was a financial and legal ambush. He wasn't just leaving me for a younger woman. He was trying to leave me destitute. Sitting at the kitchen island with my laptop, I forced myself to open our joint banking portal. My hands were shaking. I started scrolling back through the statements month by month. At first, everything looked normal. The mortgage, the utilities, the grocery bills. Then I saw it. A pattern. For the past 2 years, there had been a series of monthly transfers, $500, sometimes $750, to an account listed only as GCF Holdings. The memo line simply read, "Golf club fees." But Mark didn't golf. He'd always said it was a boring sport for boring people. My breath hitched. This was it. This was the thread. Pulled it. I called my oldest friend, Maya, a woman whose cynicism was matched only by her loyalty. "I need a lawyer," I said, my voice steadier than it had been in days. "Not a nice one. A shark." She gave me the number of Eleanor Vance, a name spoken of in hushed, respectful tones in certain circles. "She eats men like Mark for breakfast," Maya promised. Eleanor's office was all cool marble and sharp angles, much like the woman herself. She was in her 50s with a sleek gray bob and eyes that missed nothing. I told her everything, from the rose on the table to the golf club fees. I showed her the papers. She listened, her expression neutral, taking meticulous notes. When I finished, she set her pen down. "Sarah," she said, her voice calm and authoritative, "what your husband did was emotionally monstrous. But what he is attempting to do financially is legally actionable. He is hiding assets. He is attempting to dissipate marital funds. The judge will not look kindly on this." She leaned forward. "Our strategy is simple. We do not react. We do not confront him. You will be the model of cooperative detachment. You will agree in principle to his initial lowball offers. You will let him believe he has broken you. Meanwhile, we will be building our case. We will subpoena every financial record, every email, every text message if we have to. We will find this GCF Holdings, and we will find this Chloe." Leaving her office, I felt a strange new sensation, purpose. The heartbroken Sarah was receding, and in her place was a strategist. I followed Eleanor's instructions to the letter. When Mark called to discuss the split, I was placid. "Whatever you think is fair, Mark," I'd say, my voice a monotone. I could almost hear his smug smile through the phone. He thought he had one. He thought I was just the helpless, discarded wife, too grief-stricken to fight. Meanwhile, the private investigator Eleanor hired, a quiet, efficient man named David, was a ghost who produced solid gold. Within 2 weeks, he delivered a report that was both a confirmation of my worst fears and the key to my liberation. GCF Holdings was a shell company that owned a sleek, modern apartment in a trendy part of the city. The lease, signed by Mark Evans, had begun 23 months ago. David provided photos. Mark and a blonde woman, young and lithe, entering and leaving the building, carrying groceries, laughing. Her name was Chloe Miller. And the kicker, the detail that made Eleanor Vance actually smile, a thin, predatory smile. Chloe Miller was the daughter of Robert Miller, Mark's business partner at Evans and Miller. It wasn't just an affair. It was a potentially catastrophic conflict of interest that threatened the very firm he was trying to protect. The pieces clicked into place with a sickening finality. This wasn't a midlife crisis. It was a long-term strategic realignment. He was replacing the old model me with a newer one that came with a direct bloodline to the other half of his business. He was securing his future, and in his mind I was collateral damage to be disposed of as cheaply as possible. The months passed. I learned to wear my mask of defeat like a suit of armor. I met with financial experts with Eleanor, discovering more hidden accounts, a secret investment portfolio he'd been funding with annual bonuses he claimed he never received. We discovered he'd been intentionally underreporting his share of the firm's profits for the purpose of the divorce valuation. With each new discovery, the ember of my anger glowed hotter, forging me into something harder, stronger. The day of the final settlement conference arrived. I dressed carefully. A tailored navy blue sheath dress, professional, unadorned, powerful. I looked like a CEO, not a victim. Eleanor and I walked into the sterile, wood-paneled conference room. Mark was already there with his lawyer, a man who looked weaselly and out of his depth. Mark looked confident, relaxed. He gave me a small, condescending smile. Poor broken Sarah, he was thinking. The judge, a stern-faced woman in her 60s named Judge Albright, took her seat. The formalities began. Mark's lawyer started his spiel, painting a picture of irreconcilable differences and a mutual decision to part ways. He presented Mark's proposed settlement. I would get the house, but with its substantial mortgage, a small lump sum alimony payment, and a paltry, grossly undervalued sum for his share of the business. It was an insult. Then it was Eleanor's turn. She stood, a portrait of calm authority. "Thank you, Your Honor. If it pleases the court, we would like to present a more accurate picture of the dissolution of this marriage." What followed was a masterclass in legal destruction. She didn't raise her voice. She was a surgeon, methodically and precisely dissecting Mark's life of lies. She entered the bank statements into evidence, highlighting the golf club fees. She presented the lease for the apartment, with Mark's signature bolded for the judge to see. She showed the photos of Mark and Chloe. She then moved on to the financial deception, presenting the hidden bonuses and the deliberately deflated business valuations. Finally, she revealed the connection between Chloe and Robert Miller, implying a potential conspiracy to defraud both me and the business itself. I watched Mark as his life unraveled in that quiet room. The color drained from his face. His confident slouch straightened into a rigid posture of panic. He began sweating, dabbing his forehead with a handkerchief. He kept shooting frantic looks at his lawyer, who could only shrug helplessly. The air was thick with the sound of his future crumbling. When Eleanor finished, she simply said, "Given Mr. Evans's demonstrated bad faith, his dissipation of marital assets, and his attempts to perpetrate a fraud upon this court and upon my client, we are seeking sole ownership of the marital home, free and clear of its mortgage, spousal support at the maximum guideline for a term of 10 years, and a 70-30 split of the true, appraised value of Evans and Miller in my client's favor." The room was silent. Judge Albright adjusted her glasses and looked directly at Mark. Her gaze was icy. "Mr. Evans," she began, her voice low and dangerous, "I have been on this bench for 15 years. I have seen attempts at deception. I have seen greed. But I have rarely seen a case where one party has demonstrated such calculated, callous, and continuous bad faith. Your conduct, particularly the timing of the service of papers, is reprehensible. It speaks to a character flaw that this court finds deeply troubling." She then turned to the numbers. One by one, she granted our requests. The house was mine. The alimony was set even higher than we'd asked. The business was to be independently, immediately revalued, with the 70-30 split in my favor enforced. She awarded me my legal fees. It was a total, utter rout. My revenge was not a dramatic scream or a public shaming. It was the soft, decisive tap of a judge's gavel. It was the sound of justice. It was watching the man who had tried to erase me be held, financially and morally, accountable for every single lie. The expression on his face, a mixture of shock, fury, and utter defeat, was indeed priceless. I walked out of that courthouse into the bright, clear afternoon. The world looked different. It was no longer a place I had to navigate with Mark. It was my world. The pain of that anniversary dinner would always be a part of me. A scar tissue that was tougher than the skin around it. It was a reminder not of my weakness, but of my resilience. I had faced the ultimate betrayal and not just survived. I had conquered. I had learned that power isn't about loud proclamations. It's in the quiet gathering of evidence. It's in the strength to play the long game when every instinct screams for a short, emotional reaction. It's in the realization that your worth was never, ever tied to the man who left you. He had tried to discard me, but in the end, he had handed me the tools to build a life more secure and more authentically mine than I had ever known. Don't get mad. Get everything. And then build a life so beautiful it becomes the best revenge of all. Now I need to hear from you. I want you to open the comments and tell me just one thing. Where are you watching this from? Are you in your car in a Chicago parking lot, finding the courage to make a change? Are you on your living room floor in Arizona, feeling a flicker of hope for the first time? Are you in a small town in Georgia, realizing you are not alone in this fight? Let me see you. Let this community see you. Drop your city and state right now: Seattle, Washington, Boston, Massachusetts, Austin, Texas, and let us surround you with strength. Your story isn't over. This is just the beginning of your incredible comeback.